start with one of the most highly anticipated games from the weekend, the Chiefs and the Packers. Now, the Kansas City Chiefs, they edged out the Green Bay Packers yesterday, 13-7 at home inside Arrowhead or outside Arrowhead Stadium. Now, let me first say that this game was much more about the Packers to me and the manner in which they lost and the future of the organization as opposed to the Chiefs collecting a win and looking a little bit sluggish offensively. Because the majority of the game was just really wacky and out of sorts for the Packers. They had so many special team gaffes. They had a missed field goal, a blocked field goal, a punt that ended up touching off one of their own players' feet to set up the Chiefs in great position. When the Chiefs actually punted, it touched one of the Packers' feet, and it was recovered by the Chiefs. Just a lot of special team gaffes that put them constantly behind, constantly trailing, constantly fighting in an uphill battle. A lot of self-induced errors and mistakes on special teams, which is a bit rare. And obviously, Aaron Rodgers was absent from the team because of this. Kind of inexcusably was away from the team because of his COVID-19 ruse. He claimed to be immunized and he wasn't. And you combine that with the fact that here you have a kid in Jordan Love who's a young quarterback in the NFL. And I'm going to reserve some of my judgment. I want to be fair. I want to be patient with him. This was, after all, his first career NFL start. It was a huge nationally televised game, and he's making his first career start. So I don't want to crush the guy for how he performed yesterday. I want to kind of reserve my assessment for him, though this might be the only assessment that we can have of him. But to me, this was the ultimate vindication and the ultimate validation for Aaron Rodgers and the position that he's held with the Green Bay Packers organization throughout this offseason. Because, again, Jordan Love, while I don't at all think he's going to be a bust, there are some things that I'll touch on that I really liked from him. But the reality is, this was his first career start, and it looked like it. It looked like it was his first career NFL start. It looked like a guy who was nervous, who was frazzled out there, who wasn't patient, didn't want to sit in the pocket, was constantly fleeing to try and scramble and get away. He never looked comfortable. Now, you can give a lot of credit to Steve Spagnuolo for blitzing him practically every single time. The Chiefs were dialing up pressure every single time that they could on him. And for the majority of the game, he didn't really handle it particularly well. He was missing throws. And that's with an offense that features Devontae Adams and Aaron Jones, and they go 2 for 12 on third downs. The offense looked anemic for the majority of the game. And so the reality is, Jordan Love didn't really look ready. He didn't really look the most prepared. And so the reason why this is vindication for Aaron Rodgers is because if you're the Green Bay Packers, your Super Bowl window is now. The type of production that you got from your defense, who I thought played perhaps their best defensive game of the year, and perhaps one of their best defensive games over the last couple of years, they looked incredible, but their offense couldn't put together and string together consecutive drives. Now, to Jordan Love's credit, the one drive that he led the team to a touchdown on their last drive, he looked a lot more poised. He looked a lot more in control. And I think that that's a great positive sign for the Packers moving forward. But the reality is, if you need to part ways with Jordan Love to preserve and retain Aaron Rodgers for another 3 to 4 years at the bare minimum, you do it. That's the reality is the championship window for the Green Bay Packers is right now. And what Jordan Love's debut showed you is he's not ready to take over the reins and at least play at the high level that Aaron Rodgers has been playing at. And if you really want to be vying for a Super Bowl, Aaron Rodgers has to be the priority. He has to be the priority. And I think, again, obviously the Green Bay Packers have kind of taken multiple ones for Aaron Rodgers, has kind of taken one for the team, as it were, aiding and abetting this COVID-19 gambit of his. So I'm sure there's some appreciation there. But the reality is, if the Green Bay Packers are thinking, hey, we want to move off of Aaron Rodgers because he's a little, petulant at times and can be a little bit of a diva at times, so that we can insert Jordan Love, then I think they're making a big mistake. Because right now, again, even though Jordan Love is young, he's going to continue to get better. I just don't think he's there right now. And that's why when I look at the Chiefs, obviously something's going on with them. They haven't looked the same. Again, they just seem to be out of sorts a little bit, out of whack, little disjointed for whatever reason. There isn't as much harmony between Mahomes and Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelce. They haven't been on the same wavelength the entire season, really, since I would say that Bills loss. So I guess over the last 4 or 5 games, they just haven't been as connected. And it's kind of boggling to me how all of a sudden they've kind of crumbled a little bit. But the reality is they're 5-4. They're 5-4. And so when I think about the Chiefs, a couple things come to mind. First of all, I think that they're really starting to miss, and I'm surprised that I'm saying this, but I think they're really starting to miss the reliability of Sammy Watkins, especially at that number 2, number 3 wide receiver spot, because right now they're relying on a carousel of guys in McCole Hardman and Byron Pringle and DeMarcus Robinson to try and fill the void of Sammy Watkins. And right now they haven't been as reliable. They're dropping passes, and they're just not quite as sharp. And I think that we're starting to miss, and I think the Chiefs are starting to see the absence of Sammy Watkins really start to rear its ugly head right now. But the one thing that I will say, and again, because this is the first time in 3 years that we're seeing the Chiefs kind of quote-unquote struggle and not be quite as harmonious and not have the same chemistry and continuity between Mahomes and his receivers. But the one time in the game that Mahomes had to be Mahomes-esque and make those types of magical plays and extemporize with his legs was on the one play where he needed it the most. You're up by 6, 3rd and 10, first down ices the game. And Mahomes did Mahomes-like stuff, was magical on that one play. Just extemporized with his legs, improvised, ran out, scrambled, bought himself time, threw on the run, found Tyreek Hill for the first down, and that was the game. And those are the types of plays that we had been missing from Mahomes, but it was finally an encouraging sign to see that come back and be featured once again in this offense. But the interesting thing about the Chiefs, and this will be my final point on them, is, again, as much as we've ridiculed and scrutinized them for their record and maligned kind of how they've played on both sides of the football, the reality is they're 5-4. And when you look at all 4 of their losses, they're all against good teams. The Chiefs are not a bad team. This is not an awful team. This is not a team that's incapable of reaching the playoffs. 4 of their losses came to teams that we've dubbed Super Bowl contenders and some of the best teams in the AFC. They lost to the Ravens. They lost to the Chargers. They lost to the Bills. And they lost to the Titans. Well, the Titans have the best record in the AFC. And the Bills are still 5-3, one of the best teams in the AFC. The Ravens and the Chargers are 2 games that arguably the Chiefs should have won, if not for a fumble by Clyde Edwards-Helaire against the Ravens and a late pick by Mahomes against the Chargers. Otherwise, those are games that they win. And we're having an entirely different discussion. So as shocked as I am by the mediocrity in their record, just as much as many of you are, I also think it's important to take a step back and be a little bit fair, be a little bit objective about this team and recognize that, hey, you know what? They're actually just 5-4. The losses that they've had have come to good teams. I know we've come to expect, based on their consistency over the last 3 years and consistent greatness over the last 3 years, that they should just be steamrolling over all these teams like they had done. And we haven't seen that this year. But the reality is they're not losing to bad teams. They're beating the teams that they're supposed to beat. It's not the prettiest fashion, but they're beating the teams they're supposed to beat. And at the end of the day, you look up at the standings and they're 5-4. And right now, they're just half a game back of the second best record in the conference, or a full game back of the second best record, half a game back of the third best record in the conference. Still an opportunity to win their own division, which we didn't think was possible midway through the year.